Et las 8:15 am, office Luke Carter walked into the veterinary clinic carrying his K9 partner. Rex clutched tightly in his arms, his hands trembling, his breath breaking apart. Rex, once the most fearless German shepherd on the force. The dog who had taken bullets meant for Luke, saved countless lives and stood beside him through every storm. Now lay helpless on the cold steel table, his body shaking, his strength fading with every shallow breath. When the vet lowered her voice and whispered, "There's nothing more we can do." In that moment, Luke felt the ground vanish beneath him. The diagnosis was final. Terminal organ failure. No treatment, no miracle, no time left. The department had already signed the euthanasia papers. Officers gathered in silence, each one saying goodbye to Rex for Celestine. Then something happened. Something that made everyone in the room freeze. Rex suddenly lifted his trembling paws, grabbed around Luke's shoulders, and pulled him into a desperate, heartbreaking hug. Tears streamed down the German shepherd's face as he trembled, crying, refusing to let go, as if begging Officer Luke to understand something. Serum fell silent. The vet stood frozen, the syringe steady in her hand, preparing for the moment no handler ever wants to face. Luke's voice broke apart. "It's okay, buddy. I'm right here." And then, seconds before the injection, the doctor suddenly leaned closer. Her expression changed. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Then the doctor saw something so strange, so impossible, that she immediately lowered the needle and whispered, "Wait, stop everything." Everyone froze. What happened next shocked everyone in the room. Stay with us because this story will leave you speechless. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Officer Luke Carter had faced armed standoffs, been in buildings, and nicked so dangerous they made his and officers tremble. But nothing had ever shaken him like the phone call that came just after sunrise. He had barely stepped out of his patrol car when his phone buzzed. The call lady made his too-much voiced. "Dr. Hayes, emergency vet clinic." She would never call unless it was serious. Luke answered, already sensing the west Officer Carter. "You need to come now," the vet sighed softly. "It's Rex. It took us a dent during the night. We're doing everything we can, but you should be here." The world around him stopped. The distant traffic noise faded. The morning breeze stilled. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Rex wasn't just his K-9 partner. It was family, brother, guardian, and the only soul who had walked beside him through every dark moment of his care. Luke didn't remember getting into the car. He didn't remember speeding through streets or running red lights. All he remembered was the pounding in his chest and the single repeated thought, "Please hold on, buddy. Please hold on." When he passed through the clinic doors, he immediately saw the faces of two officers waiting in the hallway. "There's Werre." They stepped aside without speaking. That silence said everything. Luke forced himself forward, each step heavier than the last. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, mixed with something even more suffocating. Grief Dr. Hayes met him near the exam room. He started struggling to breathe, she explained gently. His vitals dropped fast. We've stabilized him for now, but Luke, he's very weak. He's fighting, but his body is shutting down. Luke swallowed hard, his throat burning. "I need to see him." The vet opened the door. There, lying on a soft blanket, was Rex, his powerful German shepherd, once strong and unstoppable, now barely able to lift his head. His chest rose shallowly. His face looked dull. His edges, usually sharp and dulled, were clouded with exhaustion. But when I saw Luke, something flickered inside them: recognition, love, loyalty. Everything that made Rex who he was. Luke dropped to his knees beside him. "Hey, boy," I whispered, voice breaking. Rex quickly lifted his paw as if trying to reach him. And in that moment, Luke felt the weight of every memory, every mission, every heart that they had survived together. I knew this was the beginning of a goodbye he never wanted to face. Luke had prepared himself for the West, or at least he thought he had. But nothing could have prepared him for how fragile Rex looked up close. So once powerful K9, WHO used to leap fences and drag suspects twice his size, no trembled, just lifting his head. His breathing was shallow, each inhale sounding like a quiet struggle, each exhale a fading whisper of the dog used to be. Dr. Hayes placed a gentle hand on Luke's shoulder. His organ functions dropped significantly overnight. "We've been giving him oxygen-supported medication, but his body isn't responding the way it should." She hesitated before adding, "We don't know how much time he has left." Luke's chest tightened. "You said he was doing better yesterday." "I was," she sighed softly. But something changed suddenly. This wasn't a slow decline. It was rapid, almost as if his body was fighting something we can't see to other offices. Sharp and Daniels stood silently against the back wall. They had subdued Rex for years, watching him save lives, protect offices, and take risks no human could have taken. Sharp wiped his eyes discreetly. Daniels kept his head down, jaw clenched. Luke reached out and stroked Rex's face. I'm here, buddy, he whispered. I'm right here. Rex blinked slowly, as if getting enough strength just to acknowledge him. His ears twitched at the sound of Luke's voice, but the rest of his body barely responded. Dr. Hayes checked the man beside him. Vitals were unstable, heart rate flickering irregularly. He's still trying, she said, but we need to prepare ourselves. His body might not hold much longer. Luke's heart sank. A cold wave of reality washed over him. He had always believed Rex was invincible. The dog had survived canine attacks, gunfire, freezing nights, intense heat, collapsing buildings, things no ordinary dog could endure. But this was different. This was something he couldn't fight for Rex, something he couldn't protect him from. As Luke continued stroking his partner's fur, Rex suddenly shifted, letting out a big, aching whine. His posterior shots licked like he wanted to stand, but his body refused to obey. Luke steadied him immediately, keeping him from collapsing. It's okay, Luke whispered, voice trembling, don't push yourself. The room fell into a heavy silence. Even the machine seemed quiet, as if they too were holding their breath. Luke looked at Rex's fading eyes and felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just worse than expected. This was the kind of moment no of us was ever truly ready for. Luke had always prided himself on being composed. Years of police work hardened him, taught him how to keep his emotions hidden behind a steady voice and a calm expression. But standing over Rex now, watching the rise and fall of his partner's weakening chest, the composure shattered like glass. Rex let out a soft broken whimper, the kind that came from deep pain, physical and emotional. It cut straight through Luke's heart. He couldn't stand still anymore. He lowered himself until he was sitting on the floor beside the exam table, then gently pulled Rex's head into his chest. Come here, boy, he whispered, voice shaking. Let me hold you. Rex used all of his strength to shift his body toward Luke, nuzzling his face against his officer's shoulder. Then slowly, so slowly it looked like it had, Rex lifted his front paw and dropped it on Luke's arm. Serum froze, sharp covered his mouth. Daniels turned away, shoulders trembling as he fought tears. Even Dr. Hayes looked at, wiping the corner of his. Rex wasn't just leaning into a hug, he was heaving one. Luke held him tight, burying his face in Rex's face. You're my partner, he whispered. My best friend. You saved my life more times than I can count. His words broke off as a sob escaped him. I'm not ready to lose you. Rex breathing hitched, his body trembling against Luke's, but he didn't pull away. He pressed himself close as if trying to comfort Luke, even though he was the one dying. Luke felt Rex's tears on his arm. Had heavy drops that slid onto his sleeve. That's when supposed to cry like that, not unless they were in unbearable pain or unbearable fear. Picture felt like a goodbye. Dr. Hayes stepped forward with the injection tray, her expression heavy and conflicted. She had seen dozens of euthanasia cases, but never a bond like this. Never a dog that hugged the handler with such desperate, heartbreaking clarity. Luke, she whispered gently. He didn't look up. He just held Rex as if letting go would mean losing him forever. Rex's heartbeat thudded weakly against Luke's chest. Irregular, fading, but steady. Luke finally pulled back just enough to cap Rex's face in his hands. I'm here. Whatever happens, I'm right here. Rex blinked slowly, nuzzled his officer's cheek one more time, and the entire room braced for the moment no one wanted to face. Luke kept his hands on Rex's face, grounding himself in the warmth that was fading too fast. As David stepped back to give him time, Luke's mind drifted uninvited into the past. Memories felt like waves crashing against a shore he wasn't ready to leave. He remembered the first day he met Rex at the K9 Academy. The dog had been a wild, untrusting second-year-old with scars on his muscle and more tattooed than obedience. Most handlers avoided him. A few even suggested he was untrainable. But Luke saw something else. Fire, intelligence, potential. The moment they met, Rex growled softly. But it wasn't aggression. It was a challenge. I'll take him, Luke had said without hesitation. Everyone thought he was crazy. Training Rex wasn't easy. He refused commands, ignored threats, and tested limits every single day. But Luke didn't give up. He spent nights sitting beside Rex's kennel, talking to him, and in his trust 1 inch at a time. It wasn't until that week, after a stormy night, that Rex finally rested his head on Luke's knee. That was the night they became partners. And then came the mission that sealed their bond forever. Luke could still feel the heat of that burning warehouse, the crackling walls, the suffocating smoke. He had been chasing a suspect when a collapsing beam trapped him inside. Disoriented and struggling to breathe, he thought he was done. Then through the smoke, he heard it. A fierce bark, sharp and determined. Rex, ignoring the flames, Rex barreled toward him, tight gripping Luke's vest, dragging him inch by inch toward the exit. The dog didn't give up, not even when the floor bent his paws or when falling debris grazed his back. He pulled with everything he had until they tumbled out into the cold night air. Luke had dropped his arms on Rex, crying with relief. "You saved my life," he whispered. From that moment, they were inseparable. Rex went on to stop armed suspects, find missing children, and shield officers with a bravery that made headlines. But Luke never cared about the accolades. What mattered was a dog. WHO slept beside his bed. WHO nodded his hand after nightmare-filled nights, wounders told him in ways no human ever had. And now that same dog lay in front of him, weak and frightened. Luke blinked away tears as the meme fadedan. The present returned with crashing weight. He looked down at Rex, whose breathing had grown shallower. "We've been through hell and back," Luke whispered. "You never gave up on me." "Not once," Rex stood slightly at the sound of his voice, as if remembering everything too. Luke pressed his forehead against Rex. "I'm not giving up on you either. Not now, not ever." But even as he said the words, he felt the fear clawing at his chest, because this was a one battle Rex might not win. Dr. Hayes stood quietly for several seconds, giving Luke space to breathe, to think, to break. But time was running out, and everyone in the room felt it. Rex's breaths were no longer steady. Each inhale came with a faint rasp, each exhale with a tremor that made Luke's heart ache. The monitor beside him flickered inconsistently, sounding more like a countdown than a medical device. Finally, Dr. Hayes stepped closer, her voice off but steady. "Luke, we need to talk." He didn't look up. His hand stayed on Rex's paw, stroking the faint, slow, shaky motions. "His organs are failing," she continued gently. "We've given him every medication, every oxygen boost, every pain reliever we can. His body isn't responding anymore. He's faint and he's tired." Luke squeezed his eyes out. The words were the guess he already knew were coming, but hearing them out loud shattered something inside him. "There has to be something else," he whispered. "Anything." Dr. Hayes shook her head with heartbreaking empathy. "If there were, I'd do it. You know it would." Sharp looked away, jaw clenched. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat bobbing as he tried not to break down again. Everyone in the room loved Rex. Everyone had been saved by him, protected by him, trusted him with their lives. Losing him felt like losing a fellow officer. Luke's fingertips trembled as he stroked Rex's ear. "Buddy, I'm so sorry." Rex opened his eyes halfway and let out a weak sigh, pressing his head into Luke's hand. Even in pain, he was comforting him, just a short ways ahead. Dr. Hayes stepped back and prepared a small metal tray. The clinking of instruments echoed through the silent room. She drew the injection slowly, her hands steady but her eyes full of sorrow. "When you're ready," she whispered, placing the syringe gently beside her. Luke felt his chest collapse inward. "When you're ready." But when could anyone ever be ready to lose the one soul who had stood beside them through every storm? He leaned closer, resting his forehead against Rex. "You've done your duty," Luke murmured, voice quivering. "You saved me. You saved so many people. You were brave every single day. If this is your team," his breath hitched. "I'll stay with you. I won't let you go alone." Rex lifted his paw again, resting it weakly on Luke's wrist. And as Luke choked back tears, Dr. Hayes reached for the syringe, completely unaware that something was about to happen that would stop everything. Dr. Hayes lifted the syringe, her hand steady but her breath shaky. The room felt unbearably still, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Luke wrapped both arms around Rex, whispering softly into his face. Sharpened angels bowed their heads, unable to watch, but unable to live. It felt like a final moment, a god no one wanted, but everyone was bracing for. But just as Dr. Hayes stepped forward, something unexpected happened. Rex's body yanked. A small wedge, barely noticeable, but sharp enough to snap Luke's eyes open. At first, Luke thought it was just a reflex. The final flick of a dying body. But then Rex's ears twitched. His paw shifted. His breathing changed. Not stronger, but defiant, like his body had suddenly reacted to something inside him. Dr. Hayes froze mid-step. "Wait," she whispered. Luke leaned back slightly, watching Rex with confusion and desperate hope. "Rex, buddy." The monitor beeped. Not a steady rhythm, but a sudden spike followed by an irregular series of beats. Not a recovery, but not a final collapse. Something in his body was responding. Something was resisting. Dr. Hayes lowered the syringe, her medical instincts overtaking her sorrow. She moved quickly to Rex's side, checking his gums, his pulse, his pupils. Her brow fell. "This isn't a normal and stage reaction," she murmured. "His vitals shouldn't fluctuate like this." Sharp stepped closer. "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But it means we can't proceed. Not until we understand what's happening." Luke's heart pounded. "You're saying he might not be dying?" I'm saying something isn't consistent with organ failure. Shike ate that gently. There's a trigger. Something inside him causing tese responses. Something we might have missed. Rex let out a low, strained groan and shifted again, pressing his head harder into Luke's chest. His paw shook violently, almost as if he was fighting something invisible. Luke steadied him, miming reassurances, but his mind raced. If Rex was moments from death, he wouldn't have this kind of neurological response. He wouldn't be reacting so sharply to stimuli. Dr. Hayes quickly adjusted the monitor, watching the numbers jump unpredictably. His heart isn't shutting down, she said, it's widening. It's reacting, it's responding to pain or pressure or something foreign. Luke's stomach twisted. A chilling thought pushed into his mind, one he hadn't considered until this very moment. What if he's not sick? He whispered. Dr. Hayes looked up slowly, se infegatan on the table. WHETF signo de interrogación. Luke continued, voice trembling. His head, and we just haven't found it yet? And with that single question, the entire room shifted because suddenly letting Rex go didn't feel like messy. It felt like a terrible mistake they had almost made. The moment Luke voiced the possibility, the entire atmosphere inside the clinic changed. A break shifted, a spark lit, hope flickered. Fragile but real. Dr. Galles immediately set the same aside and leaned over Rex. Her expression sharpening from sorrow to clinical focus. She placed her stethoscope gently against his ribcage, listening intently. Rex flinched, not from weakness, but from pain. A sudden, sharp, involuntary jerk ran through his muscles unlike anything they'd seen before. Luke felt Rex's body tighten under his hands. Easy, buddy, he whispered, but even he could feel the difference. This wasn't a slow fade in a dying dog. This was a reaction to something deep. Dr. Hayes adjusted her position, pressing lightly along Rex's abdomen. Again, Rex flinched harder this time. His ears flattened, and a muffled whine escaped his throat. Luke's heart pounded faster with every movement. That's not organ failure, Dr. Hayes muttered, half to herself. That's localized pain. Something is pressing on a neck or shifting internally. Could it be infection? The nurse asked from the back of the room. His voice careful, hopeful. No, she answered quickly. Infections don't cause sudden neurological spasms like this. And this blow wake yesterday didn't show signs of severe sepsis. She pressed gently against Rex's ribs. Rex's entire body tensed, his breathing hitching sharply. Luke swallowed. What does that mean?
Before she could answer, the door swung open and a tall man in scrubs entered. A visiting veterinary specialist who happened to be at the clinic for surgery training, Dr. Patel. He glanced at the monitor, then at Rex, then at Luke, kneeling beside him. What's going on? He's stepping forward. He was moments away from euthanasia, Dr. Hayes said quickly. But he's showing abnormal pain responses, something we might have missed. Dr. Patel knelt beside Rex, his hands moving with practiced precision. He palpated Rex's side along the ribs down toward the flank. When he reached ascertained spot, Rex yelped a sharp, sudden cry that made Luke's stomach twist. There, Dr. Patel murmured, that's not systemic organ failure. That's focal trauma. Luke felt the air shift. Trauma as in an injury. A deep one, Patel said. Something internal. That could be a rupture. Could be a foreign object. But he's not shutting down. He's reacting. His body is trying to tell us something. Rex shivered against Luke, his breathing quickening. Luke instinctively wrapped an arm around him, steadying him. Why didn't we see this sooner? He whispered. Dr. Hayes shook her head. Because his symptoms mimic a total organ collapse, and he's a working dog. He hides pain. He pushes through it. He probably has been for days. Dr. Patel stood. We need imaging immediately. X-rays, maybe ultrasound. If something is inside him, we have to find it before it kills him. Luke's pulse thundered in his ears. Rex wasn't being from nature taking its course. Something inside him was killing him, and they were about to find out what. The clinic transformed from a quiet room of mourning into a frantic race against time. Dr. Patel signaled the technicians. And within seconds, the portable X-ray machine was wheeled in. Luke helped lift Rex gently onto the padded table, whispering reassurance with every movement. Rex whimpered, his body trembling, but he didn't fight. He trusted Luke completely, even in pain. Hold him steady, Dr. Patel instructed. Luke positioned himself at Rex's head, cradling it softly while the technicians arranged the machine. The room dimmed. A low hum filled the air. The first X-ray flashed bright, sharp, quick. Rex flinched, not from the light, but from the pressure of being moved. Tachymeter, Dr. Hayes said. Lower angle. Focus on the rib cage. A second flash. Luke's hands tightened around Rex's fur. The waiting was excruciating. Seconds stretched like hours. The technicians hurried to load the scans onto the monitor. Their fingers moving fast, eyes wide with anticipation and dread. The screen blinked on Everiona leaned in. And then, what is that? Danielle's breathed. The room fell silent. On the X-ray, amid the pale outline of ribs and organs, something dark and unnatural gleamed back at them. A small metallic shape lodged deep between the ribs, dangerously close to vital organs. It wasn't bone. It wasn't tissue. It wasn't supposed to be there. Dr. Paddle zoomed in, his jaw tightened. That is a foreign object. Luke felt the world tilt. Foreign object? You mean a fragment? Patel said, metallic, sharp, and it's been moving inside him. Every breath probably shifted it. That's why his vitals were failing. Not disease, not old age. Sharp stepped closer, staring at the image as if trying to make sense of the impossible. How long could something like that stay hidden? Dr. Hayes answered in a whisper. Days, weeks, maybe longer. A dog like Rex, he wouldn't show pain until he couldn't bite it anymore. Luke felt a sickness churn in his stomach. So he's been fighting this alone and pushing through missions, training, everything, paddle-latted, until his body couldn't compensate anymore. The fragment is lodged near a major artery. If it shifts again, he didn't finish the sentence. The unspoken ending chilled everyone in the room. Luke stared at the monitor, his breath shaking. Rex had saved countless lives while this thing was inside him, quietly cutting, pressing, poisoning his strength day by day. And the loyal dog never slowed, never complained, never let Luke see the pain. He was never dying, Luke whispered. He was injured severely, Patel said. But if we operate now, we might save him. It won't be easy, and it's risky. Luke looked down at Rex. The German Shepherd lifted tired eyes toward him, trusting, pleading, fighting. Rex wasn't ready to give up. And neither was Luke. As the reality sank in, Rex wasn't dying from natural causes, but from a hidden wound. Luke felt a cold shiver crawl down his spine. A metal fragment lodged inside his partner. And Rex had never once shown it, never whimpered, never slowed down, never let anyone suspect he was bleeding on the inside. And suddenly, a memory hit Luke so hard he had to steady himself against the X-ray table. It was 2 weeks earlier. A rainy night, a frantic call from dispatch, a kidnapped child taken into an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. Rex and Luke were first on scene. The building was dark, rotting, collapsing in sections. The perfect trap. Luke remembered Rex pushing forward through the shadows, nose low, body tense. They were halfway through the second floor when a masked man jumped out from behind a rusted pillar, swinging a metal pipe. Luke barely had time to react. Rex did. He lunged, intercepting the blow, knocking Thiedeker off balance. Luke tackled the man to the ground, securing him quickly. But something had happened in those few seconds. The pipe had hit the floor with a metallic crack. Rex had stumbled slightly, then shaken it off and continued the chase toward the child's voice. At the time, Luke thought nothing of it. Rex always shook things off. That was who he was. Relentless, unstoppable mission first. But now Luke saw the moment again in slow motion. The sharp clang, Rex's brief stagger, the way he pressed his body protectively against Luke afterward as if shielding him from a threat only he sensed. Luke, Dr. Hayes asked softly, seeing the change in his expression. What are you remembering? He swallowed hard. There was an incident during a rescue. Someone attacked us with a metal pipe. Rex took the hit instead of me. Dr. Patel's eyes widened slightly. That could be it. A fragment could have broken off upon impact, lodged itself inside him without leaving an obvious external wound. Luke ran a shaking hand over Rex's side. He kept working. He tracked the kid. He took down the suspect. He never showed pain. Not once, Sharp murmured from the corner. He saved you, Luke. Luke closed his eyes. Rex had saved him countless times before. But this was different. This injury wasn't just a wound. It was a sacrifice. A silent, hidden one that Rex endured alone so Luke could live. So a child could be rescued. So the mission could succeed. Dr. Hayes placed a gentle hand on Luke's shoulder. He didn't want you to know. He pushed through until his body couldn't anymore. That's what working dogs do. They loved fiercely. Luke's throat tightened. He shouldn't have had to suffer alone. Rex let out a soft, weary breath, pressing his head against Luke's arm. Luke understood. Rex hadn't been saying goodbye earlier. He had been asking for help, and Luke would give him that no matter the cost. The moment Dr. Patel confirmed the fragment could still be removed, the clinic snapped into motion. The hopeless quiet that had filled the room minutes earlier was replaced by urgent footsteps, clipped commands, and the quick rustling of surgical prep. What had been a room of mourning had transformed into a battlefield, one where Rex still had a fighting chance. Get the operating room ready, Dr. Patel instructed. We're going in immediately. Luke felt a rush of adrenaline surge through him. Hope was dangerous. He knew that, but it was also the only thing keeping him standing. He stayed beside Rex as the technicians gently lifted the dog onto a stretcher. Rex whimpered softly, but his eyes, clouded though they were, locked onto Luke's with quiet determination. You're going to make it, Luke whispered, brushing a trembling hand over Rex's fur. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Sharp and Daniels cleared the hallway, ushering officers aside as the surgical team rushed Rex toward the operating room. Every step echoed with urgency. Every second mattered. If the fragment shifted even a millimeter, it could puncture a major artery. As they entered the bright, sterile hallway leading to the O, Dr. Hayes slowed beside Luke. We'll do everything we can, she said gently. But this surgery is risky. His vitals are unstable and the fragment is lodged deep. Luke nodded, though fear squeezed his chest until breathing felt impossible. He survived worse, he whispered. He survived fire, knives, bullets. He won't quit now. Inside the O-Prep area, the team sprang into action. Machines beeped, monitors lit up, and sterile trays clicked into place. Rex was connected to IVS, oxygen, and heart monitors. His breathing rasped unevenly, each inhale more fragile than the last. Dr. Patel glanced at the monitor, his fist tightening. We're losing time. Rex trembled, then suddenly went still. Not limp, just eerily still, as though conserving every last ounce of strength for the battle ahead. Luke leaned down, pressing his forehead gently to Rex's. Fight, buddy, he whispered. Please fight. A nurse touched Luke's arm. We need to take him in now, Luke.
Hesitated, his fingers still tangled in Rex's face. Letting go felt impossible, but he forced himself to step back because this was Rex's only chance. The surgical doors swung open. Rex was led inside. Luke watched until the doors closed, sealing his partner away behind them. And then, for the first time in his care, Luke Carter found himself praying. Not for justice, not for safety, but for the life of the soul who had never left his side. The waiting room felt colder than any winter Luke had ever stood guard through. He paced endlessly, stopping only to stare at the rain surgery light glowing above the double doors. Sharp and Daniel sat nearby, silent, pale, their uniforms still dusty from bruising to the clinic. Tim drank painfully, every minute stretching like an eye. Inside those doors, Rex was fighting for his life. Luke and Agent Ruizar, frustration and fear twisting inside him. He had faced armed suspects, life or death standoffs, explosions, but nothing compared to the helplessness of standing outside a room where someone he loved might die without him. A sudden alarm sounded from behind the outdoors. Luke froze. Another alarm, then muffled shouting. Sharp jumped to his feet. Is dead? Before I could finish, Doctor, as he burst through the doors, Hermes pulled down, "Sway you the chance." His heart was dropped, she said. We're waking on him now. Luke's chest caved dropped. What does that mean? I flatlined for a moment, she said. But Doctor, Patel is performing manual stimulation. They're trying to bring him back. Luke staggered backward, breath caught in his throat. Rex, his partner, his brother, was slipping away inside that room. He pressed a hand against the wall to steady himself. Memes flooded him. Rex bounding through training fields. Rex pulling him from fire. Rex curling up his eyed him and nights when nightmares returned. I couldn't lose him. Not like this. Not after coming this far. Minutes passed in agonizing silence. Gluck's fist were clenched so tight, his knuckles and bite. He whispered prayers he hadn't spoken since a childhood. Then suddenly the alarms inside the O changed tone. Not frantic, steady, rhythmic. The door opened again. This time Dr. Patel stepped out. Sweat dotted his forehead and his surgical gown was stained. But his eyes held something new. Something Luke hadn't allowed himself to feel. Hope we got him back, Patel said breathless. His heart beat returned. Luke's knees nearly buckled. He survived. He's fighting, Patel kicked. It was close. Too close. But when we stimulated his heart, it responded stronger than expected. He's not out of danger, but he's not giving up. Sharp exhaled shakily. Daniel sat down, head in his hands, overwhelmed with relief. Luke swallowed hard. That's Rex, he whispered. He always fights, Patel nodded. We're continuing the CJ, but I want you to know this. Your dog isn't surviving because of us. He's surviving because he refuses to stop. The doors one shot again. The battle wasn't over. But for the first time in hours, Rex had pushed back. He wasn't done fighting. Not yet. All scrolled by like years. The hospital staff dimmed the lights in the waiting area, signaling that visiting hours were technically over, but no needed Gluck to leave. Sat rigidly in one of the plastic chairs. Ellas loquedondas ella doors as if staring hard enough would will them open. E. Sharp and Daniel's heads stalled as long as they could of inquiet support, but eventually their shifts called them back. Luke barely noticed them leave. He couldn't move. He couldn't think about anything except a dog behind those doors. A nurse approached softly, offering him water. He thanked her, but the cup sat untouched in his hands. His mind replayed every moment of the last 12 years. Every mission, every rescue. Every time Rex had pushed through impassable odds to protect Hades. And every time Luke had promised he'd always take care of him in return. Had he failed him? The dog nodded at him until he could barely breathe. Finally, after what felt like half a lifetime, the CJ doors opened. Dr. Patel stepped out, exhaustion written across his face. Luke shot to his feet. He made it through the passage, Patel sighed gently. We removed the metal fragment. It was embedded deep than we thought, but we were able to extract it without rupturing the artery. Luke sagged against the wall, relief crashing over him like a wave. Can you see him? Patel nodded. He's sedated, still critical, but he's alive, Luke, and he's fighting. Luke followed the doctor down a quiet hallway into the recovery room. The steady beep of a heart monitor filled the space, slow, fragile, but steady. Rex lay on a pediment, bandaged, hooked to it, his chest rising and falling in shallow, but rhythmic breaths. Luke knelt beside him, for the first time all night, tears fell freely. Hey, buddy, he whispered, brushing a gentle hand along Rex's ear. I'm here. I told you he wasn't going anywhere. The German Shepherd didn't wake, but his spot twitched faintly, almost instinctively, reaching towards a familiar voice. Luke slipped his hand beneath it, holding it carefully. The nurse dimmed the lights. Get some rest, she murmured. He'll need you when he wakes. But Luke shook his head. I'm staying. He lowered himself onto the floor, leaning against Rex's recovery bed. As best, the clinic grew silent. Steph rotated in and out, but Luke didn't move. He listened to every beep of the monitor, every breath Rex took. Sometime near dawn, exhaustion finally pulled at his eyelids. He rested his head lightly against Rex's side, hand still wrapped on the dog's paw. And there, in the stillness of the night, man and dog fought for life together, one surviving, the other refusing to live. The first hint of morning light crept through the blinds, casting soft streaks across the sterile floor. Luke stayed awake, stiff from sleeping upright against Rex's recovery bed. His hand was still wrapped on Rex's paw, fingers numb, but unwilling to let go. The steady beeping of the heart manate filled the silence. A fragile symphony Luke clung to. He blinked the sleep from his eyes and looked at Rex. Still, quiet, peaceful, but breathing. That alone gave Luke strength, and he entered quietly to check the eveliness. She smiled gently when she saw Luke. You should rest in a proper chair, she whispered. I'm fine, Luke murmured, not taking his eyes off Rex then, so small at first tote immediately, Rex ear twitched. Luke froze. The nurse leaned forward, widening. Did you see that? Rex's ear twitched again, followed by the faintest movement of his paw. Luke's heart leaned against his ribs. He leaned closer, barely breathing. Rex. Hey, buddy. I'm here. He whispered, voice trembling slowly, painfully. Rex's eyelids flattened. Once, twice, then they opened just as Liv at first. Awake, hazy glint a brown baking throat, but it was enough to break Luke completely. As so escaped him, ran unrestrained. Ekupu fed Rex face in both hands, careful not to disturb the bandages. That's it, boy, Luke whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks. You're okay. You made it. I'm right here. Rex blinked sluggishly, pupils adjusting to the light. His gaze drifted and focused for a moment, then slowly found Luke's face. Recognition flickered, soft, fragile, but unmistakably there. The German Shepherd weakly lifted his head an inch before it fell back onto the mat. Luke steadied him immediately. Easy, Luke meme. You don't have to get up. Just rest. Rex breathing quickened, and for a moment, Luke feared it was pain. But then he saw it. The faint wag of Rex's tail, barely perceptible under the blanket. A simple movement, but one filled with more emotion than words could ever hold. His responding, Senner said, smiling with relief. "And now you're here," Luke pressed his forehead gently to Rex. "I never laughed," I whispered. "And I never will." Rex let out a soft raspy whine, half cry, half greeting. His eyes glistened as if holding tears of his own. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Luke allowed himself to breathe fully. Rex wasn't just alive, it was coming back. Rex's awakening brought a wave of relief so powerful it left Luke breathless. Nessas moved in and out of the room with renewed energy, checking manatees, adjusting fluids, speaking softly as if not to disturb the miracle, resting on the recovery mat. Rex was far from stable, but every tiny improvement felt monumental. His heart rate steadied, his breathing grew deeper. His eyes stayed open. Long each time Luke spoke to him, but with relief came no questions. Late that afternoon, Dr. Patel returned with us evidence bag in hand. Inside it lay the object they had removed from Rex's body. A hacked metallic shard, roughly the size of a bullet fragment. Luke's pulse quickened. "This wasn't random," Patel said quietly, motioning for Luke to step outside the room. "We examined the fragment more closely. It's not debris from a building or a rusty pipe. This is from a projectile." Luke's brow fell. "A bullet?" Patel nodded. "Not a full bullet, just a fragment, but definitely from a firearm." The hallway felt suddenly smaller, sea tighter. Luke replayed the effect incident in his mind, every detail sharper now. Sea head. Swung a pipe, but no gun had been visible. No shot had been fired. "And yet, that doesn't make sense," Luke said. "There were no gunshots during that chaos." Patel's expression darkened. "Then the injury may have happened earlier somewhere else, possibly without you realizing." A chill crawled up Luke's spine. Rex had been hit before and kept going, working, saving people. He glanced through the window at his partner, resting peacefully inside the room, her eyes and full up, his breathing steady but strained. Dr. Hayes joined them. Her voice hushed. "We also found faint issues carrying near the wound site. Whoever shot him, it wasn't recent. Rex has been carrying this for a while." Luke felt the ground shift beneath him. "I never showed pain, sandbags don't," Hayes said softly. "Especially Palisca 9S. They protect until their last breath, sometimes even beyond reason." Luke pressed a hand to his forehead as a terrifying realization formed. If Rex had been shot and kept it hidden, was the bullet meant for him? Rex had always positioned himself between Luke and danger instinctively, fearlessly. The effect attacked vence only threat in their line-up way. And somewhere, at some moment, Luke hadn't noticed, Rex had taken a bullet meant for his office and continued working like nothing happened, and a tightened in Luke's chest. Not just fear, but anger. Someone had tried to harm his partner, maybe even him. Inside the room, Rex shifted, opening his just enough to find Luke. Luke stepped back inside, kneeling beside him. "I promise you," he whispered, voice fierce with emotion. "I'm going to find out WHO did this." Rex blinked slowly, trusting him completely. The fight to save Rex was ending. But a no fight, one Luke never expected, was only beginning. 2 days later, the clinic doors slid open, and Luke walked out into the cool afternoon air with Rex beside him. Not carried, not drilled out on a stretcher, but walking on his own paws, slowly, carefully leaning against Luke when stumbled but walking. The sight alone nearly brought Luke to tell so loud again. Offices WHO had gathered outside broke into applause. Some whistlet had swiped the rest. Rex paused, they wagging gently at the familiar faces. His bandages were still wrapped tight on his side, and every step was deliberate, but the determination in his gait was unmistakable. He looked like a warrior returning from battle, scarred, exhausted, but unbroken. Luke knelt beside him in the parking lot. "Look at you," Mehmet, brushing a hand over Rex's head. Still standing, still proving everyone wrong. Rex nudged his chest, letting out a soft hat that made Luke laugh for the first time in days. They drove home, with the windows cracked open, the warm air drifting through the car. Rex lay on the back seat, head resting on Luke's jacket, Every few minutes, Luke glanced into the rearview mirror just to make sure Rex was still breathing, still awake, still with him. Each time, Rex blinked back at him, steady and trusting. When they reached Luke's house, Rex hesitated at the front door, almost as if unsure he deserved to come home. After everything he'd endured, Luke crouched down and wrapped an arm around him. "This is your home," he whispered. "It always has been." Inside, the house felt different, quiet, heavy with the weight of everything they'd been through. Rex moved slowly through each room, sniffing familiar corners, checking his toys, finally settling on his favorite spot near the living room couch. Luke sat beside him, stroking his fine long, comforting motions. "You should be resting," Luke whispered. Rex nuzzled his hand. But as peaceful as the moment was, the conversation with the vets replayed in Luke's mind. The metal fragment, the bullet scar, the possibility someone had targeted Rex or him. Someone out there knew what they'd done. Someone had fired a shot meant to kill. Luke looked at Rex. WHO was now drifting into gentle sleep. "You saved me," I said softly, "but I'm not letting this go. Whoever did this, they're going to answer for it." Rex tailed Damptonse, weak but certain, as if he understood. Luke leaned back against a couch, exhausted but filled with a fierce, steady resolve. Rex had survived the impossible. Now it was Luke's turn to finish the fight. Together, they were starting a new chapter, one built not on fear, but an unbreakable loyalty and the promise of justice. This story reminds us that loyalty isn't just something we talk about. It's something we live. Rex showed us that true devotion means standing by the ones you love even when no one sees your struggle. And Luke proved that real strength comes from listening, paying attention, and refusing to give up on those WHO depend on us. Sometimes the ones who protect us are silently fighting battles of their own. And it's our responsibility to notice, to care, and to act before it's too late. It teaches us that every life, human or animal, has value, purpose, and a story worth fighting for. And above all, it shows us that love, loyalty, and courage can change everything, even in the darkest moments. If this story touched your heart, consider sharing it with someone who loves animals. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more meaningful stories.